we can't do the Twitter one to see about getting that premium thing. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Tom's Hardware Podcast. Today is September 3rd, 2024. As always, I'm Tom's Hardware Editor-in-Chief, Avram Pellich, joined by Associate Editor Les Pounder and our very special guest this week, Riley Hutton. Riley has an incredible project that he's built with a remote and internet controllable traffic light. So we wanted to talk to him about it and find out more. So Riley, what can you tell us about yourself first of all?
So, my name's Riley. I've been interested in electronics for quite a long time. In fact, we didn't know this before Les got in contact with me about the project, but I actually used to go to Raspberry Jam events held by him when I was a lot younger. But yeah, I'm 19. I'm studying computer science in university, and for some reason I thought it'd be a good idea to buy a decommissioned traffic light on eBay and make it so that anyone could control it on the web, and it's proven to be quite popular.
Wow. So what kind of hardware did you have to get this to work?
So the brains of it is an ESP32, and that's controlling three solid-state relays that are controlling the transformers for the bulbs that are in the traffic light, and they're the original ones from when it was kind of installed on a road somewhere.
Cool. Which ESP32 is it? Because there's a myriad of different boards out there.
There are. It's an ESP32 Room, I think, as in WROOM. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
I know the one. Yes, it's
yeah.
the slightly it's slightly bigger than a Pico W, slightly
Yes,
wider
in width. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, and about just as long. They're like the standard dev board, aren't they? Well, what they were a few years ago. But yeah, you can get. I've dug in my bits box before, and I've got like, this is just a selection of different ESP32s. He says with fat fingers. They come in all shapes and sizes. In fact, strangely, there you go. That's an ESP32 as well. And I've got a watch.
Yes,
I have a watch kicking around somewhere of them.
Yes, I have that too. I was still trying to figure out what to do with the C-stick.
There's another one.
So why ESP32 instead of something else like a Raspberry Pi Pico W?
Well, I think the Raspberry Pi Pico W had kind of only just come out when I started this project, and I honestly wasn't aware of like the wireless variant. And why an ESP32? It was just something I hadn't experimented with. I've used the ESP8266 a couple times in other projects, and I just wanted to experiment with this. It's got a faster clock speed, which definitely helped when it was changing hundreds and hundreds of times a second from people interacting with it online.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no real reason other than I've not used it before, and it fit the needs of the project and more. There was a lot of room for growth.
Awesome.
So did you program this in? What did you use to program it? Was it MicroPython or C?
I just use the Arduino IDE, so I think it's C++.
Oh, cool. So you used
Yeah.
Arduino IDE. And how much did it cost for you to put together this project?
The whole project. So I think the traffic light on eBay was about £100, and the electronics were probably about £40 to £50. I had some stuff lying around. The solid state relays were a little bit expensive. I can see it changing behind me now. But no, it didn't cost a lot, but it did take quite a bit of time.
So you've got an ESP32 which is handling all the web requests. It's programmed by the Arduino IDE. You've got solid state relays, but what's the bulbs in the traffic lights? Are they LEDs or are they incandescents?
So they're actually incandescents. I've got a little bag of spares here. I had to order some spare not LEDs, bulbs. So I'm gonna. Usually you wouldn't touch these with your skin, but I've got so many of them. They're so cheap. I will do. When they heat up, the oils from your skin can cause them to blow instantly. But these are the bulbs here. They're running on 12 volt AC.
Wow. Yeah.
And rather than having one transformer for the whole thing that I'm actually switching the 230 volts to each transformer that's behind each bulb. When I bought the traffic light, it had been wired just with like 3 UK standard switches on the back to turn them on and off. And it just made the most sense to reuse that wiring. And I guess because they're actually modular, it would make sense why there was a transformer in each one.
Wow.
230 volts. So like, what's the wattage? Like, is this thing like using a lot of power?
It isn't actually. I forget the exact wattage of these bulbs. What are these? It's 35 watts each. So I guess when they're on at full whack, it's drawing about 100 watts, which is kind of a lot. But I don't keep it on all the time. It was only on all of the time when the project first started, and it took off a bit.
Wow, so that's 35 watts per bulb.
Yes.
Wow, so that's 3 amps roughly of current that the bulb will eat. Wow.
Yeah, it's that's how it was kind of when it was installed as a real traffic light somewhere. So I wanted to keep it as close to that as possible.
Yeah, don't blame you. I mean, it's nice to see incandescent because we discussed just before the call. They've got a wonderful glow, and how they warm up and then cool down is a lot better than LEDs. LEDs are great for power saving, but incandescence is just that lovely glow as it starts and stops. Wonderful.
Yeah, of course. There was a lot of debate in it on the Reddit comment sections where I posted it, whether I should replace them with LEDs just for longevity because they were getting turned on and off very rapidly, and for power and heat and everything. But I was really opposed to that for a couple of reasons. A is that I really wanted it to stay kind of as close to the original traffic light as possible.
Yeah.
B is that the dimming curve of them coming on and off, when you turn it on, it takes a second to warm up, and then when you turn it off, it fades out a bit. Meant that when it was being turned on and off hundreds of times a second by loads of different people, the bulbs weren't just strobing; they kind of dimmed on and off a little bit, and it was really cool to see that effect. Whereas if they'd been LEDs, it would have almost been a strobe light, which just wouldn't be very comfortable. And I think it would have taken a lot to kind of emulate that with LEDs or NeoPixels if I'd wanted to.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned you've got some spare bulbs there, and I know this is a fact. When it first went live on Reddit, it was quite popular on Casual UK subreddit.
Yes, it was.
And you were getting DDoSed, weren't you, pretty much?
Pretty much, yes. Before I put a little bit of rate limiting on, so kind of it got to a point where the ESP32 was spending so much time handling requests that we'll get to how it runs later, I guess. But the MQTT server thought that it had gone offline, so I had to put some rate limiting on. But yeah, it was very popular, and the green bulb blew kind of almost immediately. So that was out of action for for about a day while Amazon delivered some spare bulbs. But since then, none have blown, which has been good.
Nice. Now, you mentioned MQTT. That's a protocol that's underpinning all of this. Now, we had the inventor of MQTT on the show about 18 months ago, Andrew Stanford Clark. And weirdly, he's also a friend of mine. I'm not name dropping. He used to go to OddCamp, one of the events I went to. I've not told him about this yet, and I am going to, because he's a wonderful man. He'll love this. But why MQTT? How did you come across it, and how are you implementing it?
Yes, well, I'm sure this wasn't really what he had in mind when he was first developing the protocol. But MQTT is, it's a protocol that was developed for kind of low power and... So I'm saying this wrong. A protocol that was developed for things that didn't necessarily have the most robust connection, and it's really lightweight. Yeah. So running it on the ESP32 made a lot of sense. When I first started thinking about the project and kind of processing how it would kind of come together in my head, I spent a lot of time thinking about how I would have the clients communicate with the traffic lights and also maintain the state, as in when you chain between different web clients. So if somebody sets it to red on a web client, you want the traffic light to turn red, but you also want everybody else's website to turn red as well. And this could have been, quite easy to do just with a web server. But I kind of realized that the more and more I was thinking about this, the more and more I was reinventing what an MQTT server can already do. So I span up another VPS on Amazon Light Sale that was just I think it's just a few pounds a month. Installed Mosquito, set the permissions properly so that only the traffic light can act as the traffic light and not other people. And it works great. So rather than communicating through a web server with MQTT, everybody who connects is connecting directly to the MQTT broker.
Wow. That's really cool. And it's probably not what Andy had in mind when he invented MQTT, but I'm sure he's going to love this. Fantastic way of using the protocol. I mean, you've got it locked down tight. You've just said so. It's only really that you and the end user on the website can use it. How did you find locking down MQTT? Because normally, for myself personally, if I do something MQTT, I've got a server on my home network that's protected from the outside world. How did you find securing it on the outer on the internet?
Well, in terms of putting it on the internet, because this is just a dedicated server just for MQTT, I wasn't too worried about security in that sense. The main risks are somebody kind of bypassing the website and just using MQTTX or another kind of a Python library that can access MQTT to just spam the traffic light. And the other risk is somebody worked out how the traffic light communicated with the web server and just constantly kept sending messages to say it had gone offline, which would stop people from using it. So those are the only real risks. The second one was easy to mitigate because you can set up topics in MQTT that different users can publish and subscribe to. So it's only listening for certain things and certain topics. So it's impossible for somebody to kind of say, "Hi, I'm the traffic light. I'm offline." And in terms of rate limiting it, it's just on a reverse proxy, so the traffic to it is limited. It's a little bit, kind of hacky, but it worked for it worked for what it was, and I kind of feel if it worked for the project that it was and for how short it was offline, then it did the job. It was good enough.
Cool. So you've got it programmed with the Arduino IDE. Why choose that over something like MicroPython for ESP32? I mean, both are popular, but why is the choice of Arduino?
It was probably less a choice, more that's just my default to go to. I could have accidentally done the same thing in MicroPython, and I might do in the future with some of the problems that I was facing with the Arduino IDE and flashing the boards and stuff. But no, it's just purely because I've used it before, and I just wanted to put this project together quite quickly. Again, I had no idea how much it would take off. The original concept was just to have it on my website. Maybe I would sit and control it from my own computer, or maybe I'd give the link to a few friends, or people would stumble upon it on my website, because people occasionally do just kind of stumble upon it and control it and have a bit of a laugh. But I did always have in the back of my mind to build it so that it would be able to cope, even if with a bit of modification, if there was a kind of sudden burst of traffic. And then posting that to Reddit, I should have known that would happen pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was quite popular that weekend when it got posted on Reddit. That was,
of course.
That's when I spotted it and thought, this looks cool. So we did a story on that.
Yes.
So you've got a UK traffic light. It's running at 230 volts going into it, and it's 12 volts for the lights. You've got a transformer in there. So this is the age-old question. You're working with high voltage now.
Yes.
Did you take all the safety precautions, and have you made sure your wiring's bob on?
Absolutely, everything's wired properly. Instead of just crimping connectors, I don't really trust the ones that you crimp. I've soldered them as well. There's actually no metal casing on a traffic light. They're all plastic. So in terms of earthing it, it's just a case of earthing the casing of the transformers inside, but you're still insulated. You struggle to shock yourself from the outside. And just making sure that it's turned off when you're working on it.
Yeah, very true. So have you reused the transformer inside? Have you put a different transformer in?
I've just reused the transformers that are in there. I'm not 100% sure whether those are original from the traffic light when they were installed, or if they were something that was added when the traffic light was kind of rewired to be used as a feature lamp. As I said, it just had 3 UK switches on the back, one for each bulb. Very
cool. And I think the age-old question now is, how does one come across a traffic light on eBay? What's the situation? Did it involve any perhaps late night student drinking sessions?
It didn't actually. It actually, I think the original idea came from a kind of. I'd been aware. I don't know how that you could purchase a traffic light on eBay. I don't know why. I probably just searched it at some point when I was curious. But the idea of actually buying one came from when I was participating in a hackathon at university last November, I think. It's called DurHack. It's quite well known. It's supposed to be one of the biggest in the UK in terms of universities. Yeah. And me and my team, we were really wanting to do something that interacted with the physical world in some way, because I'd seen a lot of the projects that had done well previously, and a lot of the projects that were quite fun and entertaining a previous project on that hackathon that had done well had been a banana that you can throw in the air and catch, and it's got a little screen on it that will give you stock market predictions. But anyway, we ended up kind of disregarding all of the themes and topics that various companies who were sponsoring this project had given, and decided we just wanted to make something that we found fun and cool. And we mounted a camera on a banister on a balcony in the building that this hackathon was happening in. Made it look for the purple t-shirts all the attendees were wearing, and put their coordinates into a Minecraft game. And because it was something that was interactive, and they'd be walking around as an NPC in Minecraft from their real life movements, and it was something that we kind of threw together in 24 hours. The idea was, quite funny, but it did really well, and a lot of people took a lot of interest in it because it was something they were seeing as doing where other teams were sat on tables kind of tinkering with software and stuff. And it ended up coming second place. So I was really had my heart set on doing some stuff to do with hardware, and I thought maybe for the next year I could look at a decommissioned traffic light. Now I've kind of jumped the gun on this and kind of couldn't hold off and have done the project a bit too early for doing it for that hackathon. And I probably have to give it another use or purpose for that, but no, here it is.
That's wonderful. I love the idea of the Minecraft project as well. That's something Abram's son would be really interested
in. Listen, he's obsessed with doing Minecraft projects.
Yeah.
But so I was just looking at this, and you got a good deal on that traffic light, because here in the U.S.
Oh, really?
It seems to be quite expensive to buy a real used traffic light. They're more up there in the if it's guaranteed to be working traffic light, more up there in the $250 to $300 range.
Wow.
And if it's like a quote unquote antique traffic light, it could be more. They had one that was like a vintage traffic light from the 40s. That's $4,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
I mean, there are collectors for everything. So a $4,000 traffic light could be on someone's Christmas list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I've always wanted to get, but I have no room in my house, even if I could afford it, a phone booth.
Ah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But
now, are we talking the glass phone booths or the fiberglass ones that just connect to the wall?
No, I mean like a Superman phone booth
that you stand inside.
You stand inside.
Wow.
Or a fancier one that you sit inside, because there've been, Actually, technically speaking, I'm in a phone booth right now because here at our office, we have these little phone things you can go into or whatever, but it's not like, you imagine, or it's not like the vintage red ones that you guys have. Well, I'm sure no longer exist, but people used to really.
They're rare now.
Yeah,
very rare.
Few and far between. A lot of them have defibrillators in them now.
Yeah, or turn into mini libraries.
Yeah, because you just pay phones. You don't even use people don't use it that much anymore anyway.
No.
But I love when people take vintage technology like this, and although vintage is not totally vintage because people still use traffic lights. In fact, if you think about technology that's really old and still in use, traffic lights kind of fit that bill, right?
Yeah. And they'll still be in use for decades to come.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody had self-driving cars, maybe there'd be some kind of signal that one car made to the other, so they didn't need a traffic light. But barring that, we'll be having traffic lights. So
yeah. But the other side of traffic lights, especially for UK education, when children are taught how to do simple circuits, they're taught how to control traffic lights and how to control a pedestrian crossing. And it's how you work out the timing, because there's a certain sequence for the lights, how they will start and stop. And when they go in reverse to show that it's going from red to green. Just so if someone is colorblind, like myself, they can see the lights changing and know that it's going on to green.
Yeah.
And it's cool because we've taught that in Scratch, in Python. We've done it in Arduino as well. And it just crosses all the boundaries of code. It's just a really simple way to say, right, here's how a computer program works, because it's a traffic light, something the kids see every day.
I mean, there's a lot of inexpensive kits people can get to do a small traffic light. I mean, not a legit one like this, but to get, you can make a hat for your Raspberry Pi that has, a bunch of LEDs. And those are cute.
Like that one.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, my stop. Yeah, that's it. That's what I'm looking for.
But, so those are cute. I like those. But, I mean, what you've done is really impressive, because you're taking a real one that has the complicated, or, wasn't made to be used with a microcontroller like that, and turning it into an internet connected project. So
yeah,
I think
it's the connection between the ESP32 and the bulbs as well, because you've got those is it solid state relays.
Yes, that's right.
So question to ask is, why do you choose solid state relays when you can get the little blue ones that make the lovely clicky noise?
Because of the lovely clicky noise, mostly. Also, with the amount of people that were accessing it again and turning it on and off so rapidly, I'm not sure how long they would have lasted, because they would have been literally constantly clicking. But no, when I made the choice, it was definitely more to do with the sound, because I was thinking, if I'm going to have this as a kind of a feature lamp in the corner of my room of sorts, if it's going to be constantly clicking, it's going to be more like having indicators in the corner of my room. So that was why I made that choice, but it ended up being a good decision for a lot of reasons.
That's fair. I was just looking for some of the relays in my drawers, but I can't find them, unfortunately. But
the blue ones.
Yeah. I've got some solid state relays as well somewhere in this room. It's a good choice. The clicky ones are fantastic for getting audible feedback. So if you know your circuit's working, you can hear it, and if something doesn't turn on, it's something further down the line.
Of course.
Solid state, you've got no. Is there an indicator on these relays? Say
there is a very small, quite dim. You've got to kind of cover it with your hand, but LED indicator when they're turned on, which was quite useful to look at. When I was doing kind of getting the electronics working, sat on my desk, I could check that it was all working without having to get out a multimeter.
Bro. So I think the next question to ask is then, you've done a traffic light. What next?
Oh, who knows? No idea.
No? I mean, the next extension could be pedestrian crossing. So you've got the wait buttons. That's something there. Those units are probably going to be more expensive than a traffic light, because they've got quite a lot of integrated stuff. They've got the motors for the blind users.
I think I might have seen one of those on eBay for about £35. I have been checking.
Nice. There you go.
It's going to be definitely a traffic thing, because I mean, obviously there's lots of different traffic signals you could get.
Yeah.
But
I had wondered about attaching a car horn to it that maybe only goes off after a certain number of people have pressed the button within a certain space of time, or say if you donated a couple of quid on through Stripe or something, then the car horn would go off. But I'm not sure my sanity could handle that one.
Yeah, it wouldn't, mate.
No.
That would be awesome, though. What about the matrices or the LED signs you see passing messages on? What about those?
That could be interesting as well. And I did think about that. When I had the kind of 24/7. It wasn't 24/7, but the what was it, like 16/7 live stream going on. I was kind of thinking about different ways that it could be more interesting, and I did think about like a scrolling like dot matrix screen like that of messages and stuff. But yeah, it could be interesting.
Cool. Tim says in the chat that his son's done a pedestrian crossing hat during lockdown.
Oh, cool.
That would be awesome. So a custom hat, nice one, Tim. And Alex, he says, how about a flip dot sign?
That'd be interesting as well. I don't know what it'd be like trying to source one of those and get one of those working with an Arduino or similar. I mean, I'm sure there's some that are kind of made to do that, but getting one that's kind of been decommissioned from somewhere could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to silence a flip dot sign.
No, definitely not.
They are noisy, but they are awesome to see. I saw the ubiquitous Bad Apple demo on a flip dot.
Yes, yeah.
And that was brilliant. Very cool. Cheers, Alex.
Great. So, Les, what do you have on your plate for this week?
This week, well, more testing. So I've got the Radza X4. That's what it looks like, really. There you go. That's just a case for it to keep it cool. This is an Intel N100 board, so it's an x86 CPU. And it's running right now Windows 11 after installing Windows 11 and a myriad of drivers for it. And slight rant, 800 megabytes of a driver just for the Ethernet.
Wow, that's correct. That's
huge.
wild.
That's huge. Anyway, it's working. I've got Steam installed on it. Just before the call, I was testing Warhammer Bolt Gun. 720p low settings. It will just do it at a playable rate, but it's not the greatest rate. But you can play games on it. And if you see, I've not got the other camera on tonight because I was doing a different demo and it just failed at last minute. You'll see there's GPIO. That's because just there is an RP2040. So it has one of the older now Raspberry Pi Pico microcontrollers on it. So you have got a full GPIO and you can access it via MicroPython, by the Arduino IDE. And it means you've got a decent GPIO on quite a powerful board. It's technically, on paper, I need to verify this yet, but on paper, it's better than Raspberry Pi 5 power-wise for performance. SSD there, that's actually the SSD from my Steam Deck. It's a 2230 SSD. Nice board. I'm going to do some proper testing on that tomorrow. I've done all the Linux testing. I need to do the Windows testing to verify how fast it can perform, Geekbench scores, that sort of thing. And we'll see how it goes from there. But I've also been tinkering with this as well, the Cytron Motion 2350 Pro, so the new RP2350A in this case, which has got 520 kilobytes of RAM, 2 CPUs, one's an ARM CPU, one's a RISC-V CPU. It's currently running CircuitPython, but it can run basically whatever it can support on RP2350. So CircuitPython, MicroPython, and now Arduino. Phil Earlbauer's Core came out a couple of days ago, so you can do Arduino on that. And obviously you can do it on that because it's the same thing, it's just an RP2350. But yeah, so not done much testing on that just yet. That's still on the table. Doing a lot more on this, but so far, so good.
Cool. Well, thank you. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We will be back next week on September 10th with another great guest at 7 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. US Eastern time. Thank you so much to Riley for joining us and making such an amazing project.
Thank you for having me.
It just looks
cool.
fantastic. We were watching a demo this whole time, and now that it's turning red, I guess we have to stop. So we'll see everybody next week. Bye, everyone.